Hey everyone, this is Effort Effects, and today we're going to be digging up a few graves in a believable fashion. So pick up your spades, ladies and gentlemen, and let's get to work. Resurrections can cheapen your book. I'm starting off this topic with a warning that maybe will make you consider putting down your spade. Resurrecting a character in the vast majority of cases will cheapen a book at least a little bit. Let's go into our readers' minds to show you this. So they read your book and they love your character. Then to the middle, he dies. The readers start to tear up a little bit. They're all emotional. Only to hear you scream, "Only joking, they're alive." You didn't see that coming, did you, idiot? What you've done is just mess with the reader's emotions. You've given them a moment of shock, sadness, or maybe even happiness if they didn't like the character. Then you've just said, no, it's fine, emergency over. Readers will feel like you cheated them if you didn't bring them back correctly. Now, to avoid this entire circumstance, you've got this video. And the first thing I'm going to say is you've got to bring them back for a reason beyond simple shock value. Ask yourself these questions. How does it affect the story? Does it push the plot forward? Does it affect other characters? Why does this person need to come back? What's the purpose specifically for them coming back if there is one? To make room for more characters? Does the death reveal or change the character's true nature, or maybe another character's true nature? As long as you have a reason, it's fine. Just make sure one of these boxes are most definitely ticked. Rules to bring your character back. Number 1, pre-establish. Your method of resurrection should be pre-established before your character dies, and preferably quite a bit before. This means that your reader won't think you just pulled shit out of your ass, and it won't feel cheap. For example, in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, it's pre-established that a phoenix, tears can heal. Now, this isn't technically a resurrection, but it's a really good point to make. The book goes on and he does eventually get bitten by a snake. Poison seeping through his body, and it is a death sentence for the most part. Then the phoenix comes, flying through the passage. At this point, Harry's just happy for the company. The phoenix cries, using his tears to heal the poison. Now, the reason why the scene didn't really feel that cheap, as it really should when you think about it, is that we all had that, oh yeah, I remember, I was told earlier that I can heal. It gives you that really lovely, nice, warm feeling you get when you're reading a book and you go, I've learned something about the world and I've established this within the story, and it just makes you feel good as if you've learned something throughout the progress of it. And this is the reason why it didn't feel cheap, it was pre-established. Another example for a sci-fi book. Explain early on that nanites can heal most wounds. Explain it can even bring back the dead if you bring the body to the machine within an hour of the death. At the end of the book, the MC gets wounds that blow his chest apart. His friends carry them toward the healing station through a rapidly disintegrating ship, having to take side routes all while the time's running out. It's a little bit more interesting, and of course it's been pre-established. Rule number 2, healing and resurrections are a task, so make it difficult. I touched on this in the sci-fi example. The resurrection has to be a difficult task, but this depends on how busy the scene is, and here's my rule of thumb. After busy fight scenes, you want to give your characters your resurrection tools a little bit more easily, like in the Harry Potter example. This is to ensure the scenes don't become too dragged out. Could you imagine Harry running through the tunnels and then the school and then looking for an antidote? And no. After something like that, a really, really good scene, it was nice to finish off on such a nice little ending. Phoenix tears healing him. It just meant that the scene wasn't too busy. For quiet death scenes, you can add a lot more to the resurrection. For example, a vampire invades the home of a hunter who gets bitten during the exchange. The fight is quick with the vampire overpowering the humans. After, as the venom's coursing through his veins, the hunter allies get to action. The antidote to save their changing friend can only be made from that vampire's blood. They have a week to hunt them down before their ally becomes one. This could be a book on its own. It's interesting and a real stake. This will buff out the fight scenes with emotional stakes, it adds an extra plot point if you really wanted to, or extend the book, or you want to get them from point A to B. The reason why this is done is because if it's a really quick scene or your book's not as action orientated, this can help buffer it out and add more emotional stakes. It's all good. For example, let's go back to the sci-fi example. The crew get to the healing station with the MC. They gasp, the enemy robots have destroyed all the stations. From here we have a million possible tasks. The mechanic of the group could take his time and fix it while the ship falls apart. There could be another healing dock, but it's at the other side of the ship. Do the crew risk all of their lives for the MC? Maybe they know they don't have enough time, and they freeze his body in cryo, hoping that the robots won't find him, and come back later on into the murderous robot-filled station. This ensures that the healing is difficult in some way regardless of the case. Optional rule number 3, cost. Now strictly speaking, you don't need a cost overall, but I would definitely advise you having one. This number 1 means that death scenes don't seem too cheap and resurrections don't seem like they're a dime a dozen, and furthermore it means the next resurrection will be difficult to nearly impossible if you add the right cost in. Gives you more control, gives it more oomph, and it doesn't seem as cheap. I mean, anything that has a price tag doesn't seem too cheap in your reader's head, and that's what it's all about. For example, if your MC's bled out and his allies carry him to a demon who grants him his request, the cost is only an ally's soul. Now, Supernatural and calling you out, this would have worked if they never got the soul back. This means that, yes, you can bring characters back to life in your book's world, but it costs them a soul. It's pretty useful to have one of them about. You can even go a little further than this and add a little bit more depth. Maybe your MC's allies need to cast a spell that requires a blue moon and 50 human sacrifices. His powerful allies gather 50 members of the enemy soldiers. I mean, 50 lives, even if they are evil, quote unquote, for one, morally this is a great conversation. Will your MC be happy that it costs 50 lives for this? Maybe he's upset, yet he continues killing to free the kingdom. What's the difference with killing 50 people now you're alive than sacrificing 50 people to make you become alive? Now we're cooking with gas. This is a great conversation and this can really add oomph to a book. Repercussions. This is where it can get proper interesting and is personally the only reason I'd consider bringing a character back from the dead. Repercussions are required in any resurrection. Coming back to life must be one hell of an experience, I'm sure. Beating up the Grim Reaper, even more interesting. Even if you don't have a cost for the healing, it must come with repercussions. There's endless awesome things you can do with this. Your character could lose their powers, they could lose their memory, they could have a change in personality, become an emotionless psycho, PTSD, they could be guilty, they could be feared now since they came back from the dead, or they could have physical changes, they could not be fully healed or have phantom pains, and a million more possible things that can happen. Repercussions are really interesting. Last but not least, do not overplay this trick. Resurrection should happen, in my opinion, once in an entire book and never be able to be done again. And especially, never bring a character back twice as a hard rule. If you do, your reader will believe that they're invincible. They're never going to die. It's impossible. You can always bring them back. Your next death will be considered a temporary occurrence, not a heart-wrenching moment. This will not play on your reader's emotions and will also remove any future tension of death. They won't care. They could jump into a flaming pit. They'll be like, well, they'll be back in an hour. It's fine. All deaths turn into mild inconveniences rather than emotional, really investing moments. And that's what writing's all about, those beautiful little moments. So don't overplay this. This is the reason why death scenes and resurrections have been so overplayed and people hate them now because they're done wrong. Game of Thrones does it right. When a character dies, oh god, they stopped doing it right. They did it right at the start. The books do it right. When a character dies, for the most part, that's them gone forever, and that's the way it should be. Good alternatives to resurrections. Let's cover options if you want something a little different, unique, or if you just want to avoid the pitfalls of resurrections completely. You can put down your shovels now. Just hurting, I ain't dead. Healing someone who's in bad shape is the most obvious way of avoiding the pitfalls of resurrections, right? Well, in my experience, people are even more scuffy about healing, but I'm going to make a separate video on that. But my views aside, if done properly, it's far easier to say he got healed last second and is in critical condition but alive than he came back from the dead like Jesus. They tried, they failed. You know what I don't see enough of? Characters just failing to heal a character. In the sci-fi example, the MC's boyfriend is the only one who will carry her to the other side of the ship. The rest of his allies think it's suicide and leave him. He struggles carrying her by himself, tears pouring a trail behind him the entire time. With effort, he finally reaches the bay as the ship is on its death throes. The healing bays are there, they're fully functional, it's a dream scenario. He puts the MC inside the bay. The nanites get to work covering and slowly healing their body, and they don't work. He just took far too long. He tells the bays to do it again. The bay explains it's useless, but he ignores it and says again. So he gets to work, it doesn't work. He tries again, it just doesn't work. Tries 4 times for the lights go out and the bay dies. He goes rigid, he can't save her, and he won't survive either. His friends were right. He crawls beside her on both of his hands and knees and kisses her for the last time. He lies with her content as the ship finally cracks and depressurizes. he suffocates, his last sight her pale face before he fades into the darkness. Now who the fuck doesn't want to read that? Sometimes not making it but giving hope to the reader and then brutally pulling it away from a genuinely pre-established situation can be fucking monstrously powerful. So please try and use these scenarios a little bit more, they are so good to read. The is he dead trope. Sometimes just making it seem like a character is dead is enough. This is what most writers go for. For example, your MC's best friend Alex falls off a cliff and lands on a small edge. You don't show their death and the other characters play along. The MC and their friends fight along, losing the fight, and at the last moment, Alex climbs up and appears to save the day. Just a side note, you can create a whole other story based on that scenario as well, and the MC could ask, what happened when you fell off that cliff? And then you can also catch up or go on from there or make an entire new part of the story. It's really, really handy. From the afterlife. In some books based on spirituality or magic, afterlife communication, if pre-established, can be perfectly fine. The method is pretty simple. Have your dead character talk beyond the grave by being reincarnated as like a rat or something, ghost, a zombie, a spirit attached to an object, or your MC. It's up to you how you do this, but just ensure it's pre-established and you'll be fine. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you found it helpful and maybe even enjoyed it. For anyone that got this far, write a scene in the comments of the most interesting resurrection you can think of. There's no reward for it. I mean, what do you want? I'm a writer. I'm just as broke as the rest of you. Anyway, be creative and I can't wait to read them. Peace out and best of luck in the book, guys.